Welcome to INKtalks. And today we are here to talk about Aisha, actually. Yes. So what I thought is I would talk a little bit about, this movie is made from the parents' point of view, from the love story point of view. And for all of us at INK, Aisha was our baby. You know, she was our first INK Youth Fellow, and so we traveled with her, encouraged her to give her talks, etc. So I thought maybe we'll do a few questions from her point of view. What are some of the things you learned about her in this film?
I mean, just to clarify a little bit, the film may be a love story of Aditi and Nirain, but it is told from Aisha's perspective.
Correct.
Of how Aisha saw it, it makes the integration of Aisha's mind.
Yeah.
Correct.
She's the narrator.
She's the narrator of the film. She's ever present. And it's totally from her perspective. So the audience, when they're experiencing our characters, they experience it from how Aisha would have seen it.
Correct.
And I found that really amazing.
When did you first hear about Aisha, both of you? When you just got the script, or did you hear about her before? What was your first interaction with this character?
I had vaguely heard about her because of your Ink Talk, actually. But I didn't really know much about her story. But, you know, it popped up on my feed at some point. And so I remembered that. But I mostly got to know her when Shonali came to me with the script. After I read the script, I went down the rabbit hole of looking up Aisha, seeing the things that she had done, seeing the interviews that Aditi and Nirain had done, who Nirain was, who Ishan was, the whole family. Because I wanted to put the real faces to the script. And that's when I found out about the Little Epiphanies as well. I got the book sent to me. I read the book as well. And just her mind is such a fascinating place for me. Yeah. And I love that we've explored that in the movie as well.
And how about you? Is it when you saw the script? What was your reaction?
No, actually, I got a call from Siddharth Roy Kapoor, who's the producer of the film. And he asked me, he told me that there's a film Shonali Bose is directing for him. And he asked me, have you heard of Aisha Chaudhary? And I said, no, I actually haven't. So he gave me a very broad overview as to who the Chaudharys were and Aisha's condition. And he then sent me the link actually to the talk. Yeah. And that's the first time I ever saw Aisha actually. And it was a very moving speech, if you want to call it, for the lack of another word, that she did. And after which I met Shonali, and then of course, like Priyanka, I discovered the family and discovered everything through Shonali's and Nilesh's work.
Nirain is the first person I met as a business person. I was covering his story, etc. And he told me that, the real person that inspires me is my daughter. Do you mind meeting her? She's very shy. And, she never really sort of came out and talked. And I met her and I said, I was so touched by her. I said, would you like to give a talk? And she said, I don't know what I'll have to talk about. But the thing I was amazed is when she came up with the title, it was Singing in a Lifeboat. It was a positive talk about reasons to be happy. Right. And I was like, my God, here is somebody who doesn't know when she's going to die, literally. And the topic she chooses to talk about is singing in a lifeboat. So in your research, etc., about her and talking to Aditi and Nirain, what were the things you found out about Aisha that really sort of stood out for you about her positiveness or spunkiness or this being able to look at the world despite what's been dealt for her?
I mean, to me, it really was exactly this. And I love the fact that Shonali has embodied Aisha's spirit so well with this movie. Even though Aisha's story ends at a very young age, her spirit, not just literally in the movie as her voice, but what she stood for is what the movie is. When you come out of the film, you feel hopefulness, you feel positivity. In spite of the fact that you're watching a child go, you come out feeling like family, like belonging. You want to see the world the way Aisha saw it. And to me, that was really inspiring. I feel like we live in such an individualistic world right now where we kind of forget each other because the pace of life is so fast. And she didn't. And she remembered the moments to be happy. She remembered cherishing every single moment. She gobbled up life. And Shonali is that person as well.
Right, yeah.
So hence it was probably easier for her to embody that spirit. But that surprised me.
Yeah.
It's easy for all of us to become cynical. Yeah. I do many times, when life gets tough. It's hard to be positive and hopeful. But I mean, it doesn't get tougher than her life, and if she could do it, then we
have nothing to complain about.
Or to be morose. Right. Just to be morose because the end is near.
Right.
But also, I mean, of course, Nirain and Aditi also have to be credited a lot.
Yes.
For that, because that attitude can only come if that's the attitude in the house.
Correct.
You know, and if that's the energy that they've infused into you, and they've never made her think like she's a sick girl.
Correct.
You know, they've treated her like a normal child, that everything she's going through, even it be a bone marrow transplant or any kind of transplant that she has to do, that those things are happening as just part and parcel of her life.
Right.
You know, it's not, they've not made it out to be such a heavy thing that it's a bit, and that is what is amazing, which is why I think she could just be positive about everything.
Right.
Because she knew, of course, that she had a condition, but at the same time, she never saw it as an impediment to anything. She just saw it as a part and parcel, that this is me.
Right.
You know, love it or leave it, but this is it.
Yeah.
And that attitude was great, and I think they have a huge role to play in that.
Yeah. See, the other thing about playing characters of people who are alive and, same age as you guys, or whatever, a little older. But how much of research do you do where you spend time with them and imbibe, and how much do you create a distance? I mean, in your research, in your own playing the characters, I'm very curious to see what would that be.
It depends actually on the director's take on how they want to approach it.
Right.
With Shonali, she was very, very categorical with me to say that, listen, I don't want you to meet Nirain right now.
Right.
She was like, I want you to read the script. I want you and me to sit and we'll have long conversations about Nirain and Aditi, about Nirain, Aditi and Aisha. I'll show you some footage that we've shot of them behind the scenes to see how they are as a family. She's like, but I want you to just watch all this, take it all in, and just based on this, on what you take in, create it with a value system that I feel that you have as a parent, just create a Nirain. I don't want you to get influenced by him. And because at times characters especially in biopics, the character can actually become the biggest hurdle in telling the story properly.
Right.
When you meet the person can, not the character, can become, because there's a certain portrayal that they want for themselves unknowingly. In your subconscious, you want to be perceived a certain way. You want to be perceived a certain way. And that might influence you. So she said, just stay away from that. Do everything you need to do. And then when the shoot starts, you'll meet him. And that's really how it kind of happened.
Was it, just to continue that, you did Milka Singh also, right? It's sort of, and not that we need to talk about that film, but I'm talking about the idea of how you play somebody who's alive. Was that totally different
I think the biggest difference in between the two is Milka ji is, he's a global sport icon.
Right.
So, everybody is aware of him. Everybody knows his name. They may not know his story, but they all know his name. So when you're portraying him, there are certain things that are very distinctly associated with him. With Nirain, there wasn't that. We are discovering this person, Nirain, through this movie. So that's the slight difference between the two, I think.
I've interviewed Aditi just after Aisha passed away. And and she talked about, sort of being the caretaker. What is the weight you take on being the caretaker? You have to keep everything spirited, etc. But you don't know if your child is going to be tomorrow or not. So what sort of for you to prepare for that, what were you imbibing? What were you thinking of to play that balance between the two?
Well, I kind of saw that very closely with my mother.
Yeah.
When my father was unwell for about 8 years with cancer, my mom was not only his physician but also his caretaker in every possible way. His wife, his friend, his parent, his child. She was everything for him. And we came in and out, me and my brother, because my parents wanted to keep us away from it as much as possible, especially my dad. But I remember after Dad went, my mom just sitting down and saying, I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
Because my father and my mother used to work together. They were also married. They also worked together. He became her life. And she just didn't know where to go, what to do, how to be, how to fill the void. And what was so interesting with this story to me was exactly that there's this scene in which Aditi says that to Nirain. She's like, I don't know, I haven't done anything outside of Aisha. I've taken care of Aisha 24/7. Who am I now?
Yeah.
Now that I'm in my 50s,
right.
Who am I? What is my identity? What do I stand for?
Yeah.
I don't know how to be. And the helplessness of that, I found, I have goosebumps right now just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was so close to me. So I imbibed a lot in terms of empathy.
Yeah.
Also not being a mother.
Yeah.
I had to take a lot from Shonali, from Aditi, my own mother, to kind of create the on-screen version of Aditi for me to be able to be as honest as I can, playing her character.
Yeah, yeah. And on the other hand, you have 2 children. So when you are playing a father where you are watching your child, go through this,
Right.
has that, whatever you learned in any way changed the way you shared anything with your kids, or, was there a...
No, I don't know. I mean, maybe subliminally, some changes, of course, will happen because every experience does something to you. But I mean, I could relate to the love that a parent has for their child and the absolute devastation that one would feel if you were given this information that Nirain and Aditi were given.
Right.
It is unimaginable. It's something that defies the natural order of things. And you want your kids, and it doesn't mean that when they are 8, 10 years old or 5 years old, when they're 40 years old, you'll be feeling the same way.
Right, yeah.
So it's not about the age, it's just about you wanting them always to be safe, always to be healthy, no matter where they are, no matter what they're doing. So that to me was really a struggle initially, because I could relate to the love. I can relate that I would do anything to keep my child alive. I will do anything to keep my child alive. But if I had to face this, how would I deal? And to see how Nirain and Aditi dealt with it, that to me is something that I find very inspirational for my personal life.
Right, yeah.
That the way they dealt with it was they did not succumb to grief. They just did not do it.
Yeah.
They got themselves caught up in trying to make sure they could find every single cure possible, every single treatment possible to keep her alive for as long. They were told 5 years when she was 1 year old.
Yeah.
And they just did a move to London where they didn't have money to live there. Yeah. They did everything that you could do, and that is just amazing to me.
Yeah.
Because you're putting her before your career, you're putting her before everything else. Yeah. Aditi stopped working.
Correct.
She just completely only did this. So to me, that is very, very inspirational.
Yeah. And, for you guys personally in your lives, one of the things this also talks about is how parents are treating children, the relationship between parents and the child, on one hand, yes, there's Aditi. On the other hand, there's also Ishan, who's the healthy one. And he's in the middle of all this. So there's a lot in this movie about just relationship in general between parents and children also. And also that attitude. So in each of your lives, I would love to hear, there must have been a time when something happened where that's what moved you to the next phase. Like the way the parents treated Aisha was what made her probably live longer, you know. So for each of us, there's a teacher who said something or something that happens that makes you who you are today. So I'm just curious, in your own lives, is there something where you said, wow, if my dad didn't say this to me at that time, or if my teacher didn't say this to me at this time?
I have a few when it comes to my parents. Like Aditi and Nirain remind me of my parents so much. Like my father used to, I remember, I was just telling him this, when I was about 17, 18 years old, I won Miss India and Miss World. And the question became like academics versus movies that started coming to me. And I sat down with my father, and I was going to college that time. I wanted to be an engineer. I come from an extremely academically inclined family. Yeah. So it was a big conversation, and I wanted to take a gap year so that I would take 1 year off, do my Miss World duties or whatever. But then movies started coming to me, and I remember my dad sitting me down and saying that I was really struggling with the, back and forth of it, because I wanted to give movies a try, but I didn't want to give up on my studies. Like I was really struggling with it. And Dad sat me down and just took the pressure off of me, and he said, you know what? You're just 18. Take a year off. Do the movies that you want to. And if you're terrible at it, you can go back to school.
Yeah.
Like there's no stress.
Correct. Yeah.
Like I'm standing behind you. Your mother's standing behind you. Go to Bombay. My mom gave up her career when she was 40, at the peak of her career, and she's a physician. She was a gynecologist who ran her own hospital. She gave that up in like her early 40s and moved to Bombay with me because I had my ambitions and I wanted to give it a shot. And like Aditi and Nirain were exactly that. Whatever your child wants to do, the precedent becomes your children. And I remember if my dad didn't tell me, he said, I don't want you to ever have a what if in your life.
Yes.
No what ifs.
No regrets.
So give it a shot. You're terrible. We'll know. It's easy. Like, no what if. What if I had done it? What if I had tried it? Just try it. Do everything you want to do. The sky is your limit. And I don't think if my parents didn't have that attitude, I don't think I would be doing everything that I'm doing today.
Yeah. How about you, Farhan?
Well, I think mine possibly would be, because for the longest time, I was very confused about what I wanted to do in life. And I used to keep on taking things up and never kind of following through on them. Join a course, leave halfway. Join college, leave halfway. And the one thing that, I mean, my dad did say to me, which has stayed with me, was that, the thing is that the problem with you, or the issue that I see with you, is that you're not committing to things from your heart. You're just getting excited about something and wanting to do it, but you're not really thinking it through, that is this the thing. So he said, take your time, think it through, but then when you do commit to it, he's like, you should follow it all the way through till the end. That is something that you should do. And I feel that is something that has kind of stayed with me in everything I do now. So whether it's in film or in music or whatever I'm doing, like I feel that is very, very important to me. That I don't want to give up ever, on something that is this close to me. And I think that comes from that little chat that I had.
And I think this conversation is so important, especially at this time in India, where in some ways the world is an abundant world, where there's so many options open, but we are putting our kids through still the same shortage mindset of, you must get a good grade, most of the parents are like, you must become a doctor or an engineer. I mean, there's so much pressure. But I think even if the worst happens, there's enough things out there.
Absolutely. I mean, my kids don't have that pressure at all. I do feel that everyone has their own calling. And there will be a time when they'll find that calling. I do believe that very, very strongly. And I feel by forcing our views or our norms or our parameters of what is success and failure, or what is good and what is not good onto them, I think you're limiting them,
And also, like you said, India is going through this precipice of change right now, where anything can become a career. Your career can be in media. Your career can be, you can create an app, tech. You can literally have an idea and monetize it. And I feel like that is such an incredible place to be, even for parents to understand. Like, I remember when I became an actress, my grandmother, who's from Kerala, and like, all her children had to be either doctors or engineers or lawyers. She was very clear about it. And all her children are. So she asked me, I said, now I'm acting and stuff. She was like, yeah, but what's your job?
What will you do after that?
And I was like,
actually,
that's hobby. That's my job. And she was like, no, but how is he going to pay the bills? It took a conversation to explain to her this will actually be a career. So that mindset, I feel like parents also need to change and understand that as India is changing and the world is changing, let your children have the ability to breathe, be the wind beneath their wings when they have ideas, and be curious with them. As curious as they are, be curious. Like Aditi was curious with her daughter. Whatever her daughter might want to do or whatever her disease was, she educated herself and made sure that her kids get the opportunity. Even now, Ishan is a musician, and you always see her parents figuring out a way of being able to make Ishan go forward in his career, which they have no idea about. But they are being the wind beneath their wings. And I feel like especially girls in this country, if parents do that to girls, they can reach such high positions in life.
And also I think when we come across something that we don't know, it feels like kya kar rahe ho?
It feels scary a little bit.
It feels scary. Like when we first started talking about ink, etc. But people are like, but what do you do the rest of the year? I said, we just work with people on creating their stories. But what does that mean? Event management company hai kya? People want to put it in a box. To say, now I can understand that. But this other stuff, I said, sometimes the results may come in 10 years. You don't know.
Of course.
And, and the other thing for you, I wanted to ask is, you worked with Shonali, who's like one of the best directors, I think, there is in pushing the envelope on subjects, etc. So obviously, any story done by a different director would be different. So I would love to hear both your experiences on working with Shonali, particularly on this, which is very close to her heart. There's so many angles that came into it because of her that made the movie what it is. I think I'd love to hear both your comments on.
I had never seen Shonali's work. In fact, I saw Margarita with a Straw 4 days ago.
Oh, did you? Well done.
I had never seen her work. I knew of her work. Because a lot of my friends worked on the movies as well, so I knew the kind of work she had done. But the moment I read the script, which I knew she had written along with Nilesh, who's a co-writer, and when she came and sat on my couch and we started talking, I am very instinctive with the directors that I work with. A director is the captain of a ship for a reason. They have to know every aspect of the story, every person involved in it. They have to have such a clear vision. And she sat down, and the first 5 minutes of our conversation, I knew how well she knew her material, what was the story she wanted to tell, how she wanted to tell it, and more than anything, what was the experience she wanted the audience to have. Yeah. Before even shooting the movie, she knew that. And eventually that's what you need with a director. The fact that Sid and Ronnie, who are producing the film with me, they are incredible producers. Every subject that they touch is special, is cinema, and is not trivial at all. So I knew that if they were backing this movie, there was something special about it, and that's how I took it on. But in the first 5 minutes, I knew that this is a great filmmaker.
How about you, Farhan?
The same. I mean, I'd seen Margarita with a Straw. I'd absolutely loved it. And then when I met Shonali, everything that you imagine that the director of that film would be like, she was. You know, and extremely sensitive, very passionate about the material that she has, very protective of the material that she has. You know, it's hers, and that ownership is an amazing thing to see when directors have that ownership and writers have that ownership. So there was also that. Plus, I also wanted to learn Hindi. So I thought Shonali is the best person to work with.
So mean.
This is just an inside nudge between Shonali and my joke.
Just for people.
No, but I mean, and the thing is that through the experience of making, it's just through the experience of making the film, I also discovered Shonali as a person. You know, which to me is an amazing discovery, a joyous discovery. You know, of having met someone at this age in my life also, at this stage who I consider a really, really close friend now. I feel like I have a connection with her about things in life. And she definitely is a person that if I want to talk to at times about certain things, I can just very, very easily pick up the phone and call.
So when since you're a director also, when you're acting, does the director keep coming out, or you're able to parse it?
The director is left at home, locked in one cupboard.
Are you sure? Is that true, Priyanka? Does he leave the director at home?
I mean, Farhan has this incredible ability of compartmentalizing. I've worked with him in 3 capacities now, as director, as producer, and as an actor. And he has this amazing ability to compartmentalize each one of them and keep them in their specific zone. And when he came on set, he completely surrendered to Shonali as a director. Both of us, like it was it was very collaborative. We could have conversations with her. We could tell her like these are our ideas, but she dictated and knew exactly what we were going to do, and he completely surrendered. I never saw the director's side of it.
Yeah. It's a personal question for both of you. One for you is, you've been a great role model for women, I think, young women in India. And I've lived for a long time in US, came back here. The biggest frustration I have is a lot of the times women volunteer to do things without having to. You know, it's sort of, they offer to not do, etc., out of generosity, whereas they should take their place. If someone said, okay, we have a child, woman first puts the hand up and says, I'll just stay home, whether it's expected or not.
Gotcha.
Because there is a lot of expectation on the women that
Agreed.
You are the nurturer, you are the one who holds the fort. And I always talk to young women, you don't need to put your hand up first. It's okay to say, I want this.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think, what I love about you is that you stand up there and said, I want it. And so what message would you like to give to the young women? I mean, you've been an entrepreneur, you've been many, many different hats. So what would you love to see women do more of?
I mean, coming from exactly what you said, because you're right, you know, I think it's the cultural pressure which happens in this part of the world, where it's presumed that, a woman's career after she decides to get married, or her desires, her individual ambition outside of her marriage or outside of her partnership with her husband should be compromised, because she is supposed to be the caretaker of the children, of the home, वो कहते हैं जब घर गृहस्थी शुरू हो जाती है for a woman, then वो उसका होता है responsibility.
Right.
And it is not the girls who do that to themselves. It's what we are taught.
Exactly.
It's the culture that is, it's conditioning. And it's conditioning for so many years. It's come for, India is one of the oldest countries in the world. So it'll take a lot to change that. I mean, it took my parents and killing the stereotype for me to be like that. My grandmother, who I was talking to you about, she insisted my mother did not, and my grandfather, my mom doesn't know how to cook. She didn't ever go into the kitchen. My father, in fact, taught my mother how to cook after they got married because my mom didn't know what to do. Her parents broke that stereotype and that mold for her, which doesn't mean there's anything wrong with being a caretaker. I mean, a homemaker is as rough and tough and a difficult job as it is to have a career. But it's about having individual desires. I always say this to young girls, and I'm not just saying it in India, but around the world. You know, your individual desires are just as important as the other person. No matter what people tell you, learn to dream.
Right.
Dream big. Think whatever you might want to be. Like this film says, har insan ka apna sky hota hai.
Right.
Think about what your sky will be. And maybe you'll find a way of working it. Maybe you'll find people who will support you. Maybe you will find family. Maybe you'll find friends. But don't stop your dreams because you're scared of it. You know? The first thing is to incubate the seed.
Right.
Is to have a big dream.
Yeah, and my dad said when I got married, thank God he's a better cook than you. Otherwise, everybody would have starved in the household. So, Farhan, you have 2 daughters.
Yes, I do.
So, what are your conversations with them about their own dreams, their own place in this world?
Well, I listen to what they say more than speak to them myself. So, I'm listening to what they want to do, what they want to be. You recognize, of course, leanings that they have towards certain things. Like my older one is very inclined, very, very vocal and very involved in the whole gender discourse that's going on right now, especially with like the LGBTQ, those rights. She's very, very involved in it. She's very vocal about it on all her social pages and things like that. So she's going ahead, like doing sociology, wanting to do gender, wanting to do sexuality, studies in sexuality. And you could see that coming. You know, so all you can do is like she said, just provide them the right support so that they feel like their choices that they've made are good, that people who matter to them are supporting them. And that's all. I don't want to tell them anything outside, you know, just be true to yourself.
But by doing that, you're telling them. You're empowering your daughters right now by being the support to say, tumhe jo karna hai, tum kar sakte ho, and I'm standing.
Exactly.
But that's the biggest thing, that's the biggest struggle. Parents somehow cannot take this seat back. They don't have, you have to have faith in your children. You have to have faith in your upbringing of your children.
Correct.
What foundation you have given to them is what they're going to be. And fathers like this, when Farhan's like that, my father was like that, was whatever your dream is, if you fall, I'm going to catch you. So it just that much gives you such a sense of confidence and such a sense of self.
I remember there was this, I can't remember the saying verbatim, of course, but it was basically that, you know, like, you have to think of your child as an acorn that fell off the tree. So he'll always belong to you. But you should always make sure that it rolls far out enough so that it can grow to its full height.
Wow, that's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Because, I mean, it's like way back when I had to come to IIT Bombay, my whole family fought. And my dad said, I don't want my daughter to ever grow up and say that I stood in her way.
Right, of course.
So it's sort of, whatever it is, you have to trust. So, as a wrap, I'd like to ask you, I'm very excited about this movie because I feel this is truly celebrating Aisha, and she is open.
You're a part of this film, actually.
You are. You're a part of this movie.
So, she's opened so much for all of us of what life is. I mean, we all say a lot of times that, we complain that, it's hard, the traffic is this. I'm like, we're alive, you know, everything else. I mean, look at her. Actually, I must say, the second time she came to give a talk, she was on her oxygen mask and she really wanted to give a talk. So I said, come on over. But for that 10 minutes on the stage, she didn't want the mask. So she put it there, even though it was difficult for her. She didn't want to have that mask in the frame, you know.
We shot that scene. We were told that by Aditi. And we shot that entire scene. I don't know if it will make the last cut of the movie. But we have that whole scene.
We did shoot it.
So what was your parting words about Aisha? If you have to describe her, how would you? And you all experienced her posthumously, you know. And much stronger actually to be able to do this. So I'd love to wrap by saying something about Aisha.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. I would think of her as a really bright light,
Yeah.
you know, as how, because I mean, she really, for the time that she had, she shone for that time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like in a dark room, you focus either on the darkness or you focus on that ray of light that's coming.
Right,
you know, and that's what she did. She was that light.
Yeah.
That's what she was.
And I feel like she's still shining down upon us. I mean, when I watch this movie, I feel like she's up there, like along with Shonali's son, Ishan, my dad. You know, like
they're all hanging out there.
Hanging out and they're like, all right, this movie's going to be like that. And like when we were at TIFF.
What is Moose wearing?
Why is she dressed like that? But I remember when like the audience stood up at TIFF and, you know, they clapped and they gave the movie a standing ovation. To me, it was a testament of her spirit, her
And
life.
this is people who didn't even understand the language, right?
They were just reading subtitles.
A lot of them
and So it was, I think she's still shining down upon us, not just through this film, but this film, I think, will immortalize her in a really big way. And her parents are continuing to make sure that they immortalize her. They came up with this film. They reached out to Shonali. They are going to keep her memory alive for a very, very long time.
And I think I have to, at the end, say that it's really huge round of applause for Aditi and Niren for the way they have just been so gracious through it all and fun-loving. I mean, we had like, you know, Aisha would do modeling and music concerts and, you know, whatever Bollywood she wanted. It was like, you know, Shantanu Maitra actually went to her house and would sing songs and all this stuff. So, I mean, really, it's just amazing to see parents like that who are positive no matter what, man. You just bring it on.
Yeah,
So really, thanks. I think you know, I've only seen the trailer. I'm looking forward to the movie, and I think both of you gave it to your all to do justice to the film. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.